The Indian Child Pride and the All Arab Husband by Dr. A. Ahmed. This narration continues the story, The Arab Sugar Daddy and the Beautiful Indian Girl. It was written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. It is a novel narrated in 6 books. Book 2, The Arab Sugar Daddy turns into the Granddaddy, the Devil. Copyright. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored, travel system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by the reviewer, who may quote brief passages from the review for printing in a general magazine, a school journal, or university article. All characters in this novel are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Chapter 6, on being a female child pride in Islam. Sex with the notorious Arab womanizer, who is also a pedophile old man, is an exceedingly painful daily experience for the underage girl Iffat Khan. She fought and struggled, but with his uncaring and brutal methods, he forced himself on her. Sheikh Ahmed, like many evil men, enjoys inflicting pain on his female victims during sex. Some Muslims believe that the jihad of the woman should be on the bed of her husband. The good Muslim wife is the one who is supposed to feel the pain during sexual intercourse, and the noise and sound of distress allow her husband to validate his manhood and strong sexual ability. The more she feels the pain in sex and she screams, wails, and bewails, the more good jihad she performs and gets rewarded by Allah. That is why Muslims in France pay huge sums of hard foreign currency to French doctors to have their wives made virgins again. A Muslim man in France is prepared to pay a French doctor 5,000 American dollars to make his wife a virgin, just like the time he married her. He enjoys penetrating her cunt and breaking her hymen over and over again. The act of penetrating a woman's hymen causes bleeding and pain for some more than others, especially the noticeably young wives. The evil and perverted is the mind of a husband who enjoys causing pain to his wife and seeing the blood running out of her vagina. Muslim men get these twisted ideas directly from the teachings of Islam about the virgins of paradise. The Quran and Hadiths simply state that the virgins of paradise remain virgins after intercourse. The Prophet Muhammad was asked, "Do we have sex in paradise?" He answered, "Yes, by he who holds my soul in his hand, and it will be done dahman dahman." That is the intercourse done with such show and disturbance. And when it is finished, she will return pure and virgin again. Cited in Hag and Newton, 1996, page 17. According to this hadith, either Allah would stitch the virgin's vagina immediately after she has lost her virginity by insertion of the male's penis, or he would recreate a new hymen and inserted it in her pussy. In fact, in Islam, the woman is nothing but a mere pussy or a vagina. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The woman is aura. When she goes outside the house, the devil takes charge of her." Tirmizi, volume 2, page 65. According to this hadith, whenever the woman goes out of her house, she will be possessed by demons. So she is dangerous to society, and hence she should be imprisoned inside her house. There is no definition so widely used and accepted among Muslims for defining the woman than saying the woman is aura. The term aura is defined in the Encyclopedia of Islam as the external genitals, especially of the female, cited in Hag and Newton, 1996, page 5. So to put it bluntly, a woman from head to toe is a big pussy. Sex occupied the mind of the Prophet Muhammad throughout the 25 years of preaching his new religious cult. As if 72 virgins are not enough, every Muslim man is entitled to 100 young boys that the Quran describes as diamond sparkling boys. They will circulate them boys from for them as if they are beautiful parrots, well protected. Quran Surah Al-Tur 52 verse 24. The Quran describes the beautiful young boys as not getting a headache or a bleeding. Some Muslim scholars hide the fact that the Quran has promised these 100 beautiful boys for sex and sodomy. They argue that the purpose of the boys in paradise is to serve the faithful men. One may ask, if the beautiful boys are to serve the faithful Muslims only, why then does the Quran say that they would neither bleed nor have headaches? The Quran meant the beautiful young boys would not bleed during sex because there is no hymen to tear or break when the male penis is penetrating during sex with those pretty 100 boys. Anyhow, Sheikh Ahmad did not live for 7 months in Eritrea. He kept his Pakistani Ghulam as a guard to keep his child bride imprisoned in his Asmara house. Ghulam means a male slave, and Khaddamiya means a female slave. No wonder the maid servant in all Arab countries is called Khaddamiya. African and Asian Muslims show high respect for their Arab masters or employers and look at them as superior to them, as if those Arabs are Brahmans, and they are untouchable outcasts in Hindu society. The Muslim Arabs have been revered and exalted by non-Arab Muslims because the Prophet of Islam is an Arab. This stupidity led some black Africans like Sudanese, Somalians, and Mauritanians to claim that they were Arabs too. The Pakistani chauffeur is such a faithful and obedient slave to his Arab master. He is prepared to do anything to please him, even if he asks him to bring his wife and sister for sexual entertainment to Sheikh Ahmed. The despicable Pakistani Bim will bring them to his Arab master. The old Saudi spends a few days every month with his imprisoned child bride and then returns to his country. He hired 4 Eritrean Khaddamiyat or maid servants for serving his Indian female child bride, Iffat. 1 woman for cooking, 1 for cleaning the house, 1 for washing the laundry, and 1 for massaging, applying dilka and khumra on her body. The old geezer has also kept a guard at the gate of his big mansion in Asmara. This Eritrean guard, who looks like one of the terrorists of Boko Haram, has a license and fully loaded rifle. Whatever food his female child bride desires and whatever clothes and dolls she wants to have been provided. She has become decked in gold and diamonds from head to toe. He treats her the same way he used to treat his former Indian Christian bride, Christy. It is not hard to imagine the little bride, Iffat, feeling like a bird kept in a gilded cage. Since she had stepped foot inside the mansion, she had not been allowed to go outside the compound of the prison. It is a mansion but not a home, a palace of terror instead of a safe and loving environment. Many times she begged Sabir to allow her to go outside and play in the grass with her dolls, but he refused. She cried and begged the lustful pedophile to take her to where her mother was, but he would sharply deny her request. He simply countered her bliss by telling her the Saudi police had taken her mother to a place extremely far away because she had done something awfully bad. He refused to tell her what her mother had done and or when she was going to come back and get her. He does not like to talk about her mother as much as Qais used to love his lovely Indian Layla. From the day she got arrested, he started to hate even hearing her real name Rehana. For several months, the evil Saudi husband tied and molested his Indian female child Pride. When she reached the age of 9, he began to prepare her for vaginal sex. He intended to teach her about sex, or at least the part she has to play, before he would start raping her. He bought porn movies and forced her to watch them with him. She did not like them, but she agreed after going through another round of his starvation and imprisonment techniques. He made her understand what he wanted to do with her by the example of the sex scenes in pornographic movies. When he tried to rape her, she resisted and fought him off. He discovered that she had grown up and was much stronger than before. So, to get her into obedience and compliance, he simply broke her resistance by withholding all food and water. Crying and begging have got her nowhere. He simply repeated his old line that if she did not do exactly what he wanted it, he would not give her any food or water. But the little girl, Iffat, refused to yield to his request and told him she wanted to die. For 2 days, the small female child went without food and water. She thought that she would starve to death and go to heaven to be with her father and mother. When her father committed suicide, she was told by her Muslim mother and grandmother that her father died and went to heaven and is living in better place. She now believes that the same police officers who had beaten her mother and done all those bad things to her had come back, taken her away, and this time killed her for real. In her mind, it is simply better to die and go with her parents than continue living in the house of horrors with a nasty old man that made her do all those things she did not like to do. The vicious old geezer became extremely furious and continually struck her face and flogged her with a big whip. When he was done with his revenge beatings, he would lock her up in the dark room again. The small girl Ifat or any other is not capable of outmaneuvering the mind of a professional abuser. He simply resumed his methods and he eventually got exactly what he wanted it. On the third day, Ifat loses her strength and is no longer able to move around. While she is lying half conscious, the old man came in and removed her dress and underwear and began to rape her. She could not move a limb to stave him off. Sadly, her ability to feel pain is undiminished. The old man tried but could not penetrate her private parts because she was just too underage. Not giving up, he used his finger to widen her vagina. His finger felt like a sharp metal rod forcing itself inside her. She wanted to cry, but her dry up mouth and weak body could not scream out in pain. Only a steady flow of tears poured out of her eyes. Using the middle fingers to widen the private parts of underage girls or female child wives is quite common in Arab countries. No matter how many times the old monastir had tried repeatedly to penetrate the private parts of his underage child bride, he could not succeed. Those repeated attempts had given the small girl effort continuing, continuing day and night, nightmares and unbearable tortures and copious bleeding in her private parts. The wicked Arab man had even tried sex with his victim, but he could not succeed in that too. The wicked Arab man had even tried anal sex with his victim, but he could not succeed in that too. The old geezer has become very advanced in his years and has lost much of his vigor, but is determined to penetrate her by all means. He knows his fingers alone would not widen her vaginal canal, but he has brought many sex toys. He changes his fingering method and began to use a plastic penis. His new method worked and he even inserted half of the plastic penis inside the small girl's vagina. The blood has run out of his victim's vagina and turning everything around it red. She felt as if he was using a sharp knife and sawing her into two halves. The pain is unbearable. She lost consciousness. He did not bother to find out whether she had lost consciousness or had died. His lust has blinded him, and he decides to penetrate her even if she is already a corpse. He mounted her seemingly lifeless body and began to penetrate her. Finally, the wicked scum of a man, by hook or crook, has been able to insert half of his male organ into his victim's bleeding vagina. Then he brutally raped her inside the copious bleeding private parts until he has ejaculated and his white semen mingled with her red blood. After that, he calls his despicable Pakistani Bim and asks him to help him take his bride to the hospital. It is a quite common phenomenon in countries like Eritrea, Sudan, and Somalia for brides to be taken to the hospital on their first wedding night because of excessive bleeding. Hospitals consider such cases as normal because of the widespread custom of female genital mutilation in the African Muslim lands. If a new bride is wheeled into a hospital with an injury due to sexual intercourse with her husband, it is not considered rape, nor is it considered a serious case. If in Iffat's case, she is taken to the intensive care unit because she is dehydrated and starved. She is fed through an IV in her veins. She remained in a coma for 3 days before she came back to life. The hospital did not consider her case criminal in nature and treated her until she recovered. After 5 days, Ifat is transferred back to her former prison. As soon as the hospital discharged Ifat Khan and she is brought back to the mansion of horror, the old man began to rape her again. This time, she felt the pain more than before. She felt more pain because she is fully conscious and the wounds in her private parts are still not fully healed. She screamed at the top of her voice and resisted, but she could not be able to stop him because her body was still weak. She felt terrible pain when his male organ began to brace hard on the surface of her wounded tiny vagina. This time, it felt like salt buried on an open wound. She beat his shoulder and scratched his face with her nails. She hit his back with her fist and kicked his legs. Nothing she did could get him off her body or prevent him from forcing his penis into her underdeveloped vagina. As he began to penetrate her, she fainted. As before, the old monster did not bother to find out why she stopped resisting and screaming. He just continued to brace on until he had fully inserted his penis inside her vagina. This time, he did more damage, and after he ejaculated, blood bulled around her body. For the second time, he called his Pakistani bim and asked him to treat the child bride. This time, he decided not to take her to the hospital. He is afraid that she might be hospitalized again for a few days. He would not tolerate waiting until she got discharged. He wants to enjoy raping her no matter what her health condition. He just told his beam to clean up the blood around her vagina and to apply Dettol to stop the bleeding. The despicable Pakistani slave followed the order of his Arab master and began cleaning her up and applying the Dettol. After that, he used cold water to revive the Indian child bride Iffat. Chapter 7. The American Human Rights Activist. From the time the Indian maid server Rehana Khan was arrested and sentenced to be stoned to death by the Sharia court, and for more than 2 years and 10 months in the Jeddah women's prison, we could have written hundreds of books about her suffering and abuse and the crimes that had been committed against her daughter Iffat in her absence. She lost half of her weight and most of her beauty faded away, and she became like a faint copy of the former lovely and sexy Indian girl Rehana Khan, who was considered more beautiful than Cleopatra and Aphrodite. She was loved as the lovely Layla and worshipped as Bollywood celebrity film superstar heroine. But now she lost interest in everything and became nothing. She concluded that even her daughter had believed the false charges and disowned her. She has no address to send letters to her children and mother in Bombay. She beheld hundreds of horrifying dreams and visions. For 3 years, she never ceased to see the vision of the late beautiful Pakistani girl Sakina, that poor wife who was brutally stoned to death for having sex with her lover while she was married to another man. That Pakistani girl as if remained living with her inside her brain. She appeared to her every night in her dream and begged her for mercy and help. Very often during the day, Rehana saw her vision. She felt as if she was possessed by the spirit of Sakina. Many times she saw in her dreams scary bearded men chasing her with stones and bricks, trying to catch her and stone her to death. 2. Whenever she saw that nightmare, she woke up in the middle of the night and began to scream at the top of her voice and called for rescue. She said to them she is too young and she has children to look after, and therefore she does not want to die because she has done nothing to deserve such a brutal death. Sometimes Rehana saw visions of ghosts during the day attacking her in her cell. Those visions made her believe that she was living in a haunted cell. She became like a mad woman. Many times the female guards saw that she had lost her mind. She screamed and begged them to take her out of her cell and keep her in a place where her other jail female inmates are kept. The Saudi female guards ignore her requests and they consider her insane. Those cruel female guards and other female inmates accuse her of being possessed by Afarid. In Islam, Afarid is an evil by Ifrit. In Islam, Ifrit is an evil jinni who is large, powerful, and very crafty. Singular is Ifrit. See the Quran, Surah An-Naml 27, verse 39. There are many times when in exasperation and despair, Rihanna would bash her head against the wall until those female guards would come and put her in chains. To stop her from killing herself before her stoning day, she was put in a straight jacket. Anyone who had seen Rihanna Khan before she entering anyone who has seen Rihanna Khan before she entered prison would not have believed today that she is the same young Indian girl. Rihanna's suffering was compounded by her illegal pregnancy. 7 months from the day she was sentenced, she delivered a baby boy in prison. She is treated by her female inmates and female guards as a dirty professional prostitute who used to marry men, cheat them, steal their money, and run away from them. It was nothing short of a miracle that the baby boy survived in her womb after she had been hammered mercilessly by the Saudi police woman during her interrogation. She was tied up and flogged on her back and legs. She was slapped and spit upon regularly. She was treated as a liar and dirty prostitute. They forced her to admit crimes that she knew she had not committed. They used a Pakistani female translator who hated every Indian on the surface of the earth, even Indian Muslims. She added things Rihanna did not even say. She cursed her and insulted her with every filthy word she knew in the Urdu language. Rihanna tried to convince the Jeddah police female interrogators that she was brutally raped by two Saudi police officers when she arrived new in Saudi Arabia, but to no avail. For 2 years and 10 months, not a single person came to visit Rihanna Khan in prison. It is as if she had fallen off the face of the earth or been exalted to another planet, and no one even knew who she was or where she had come from. One day, an American female human rights activist came to her cell and talked to her through a female translator. When she narrated her story in tears, both the American female human rights activist and the Indian female translator wept. The female interpreter is an Indian Muslim girl who has been employed recently by the Saudi police authority as a female translator in the women's jail and the Jeddah Sharia court. The American female human rights activist and the Indian female interpreter believe every word the condemned Indian maidservant had told them, that she had for 3 years waiting for her execution even though she had not committed any crime. She had not indulged in consensual sex with any man since her husband died. She told them that the two Saudi policemen raped her in the desert in exchange for the safety of her little 7-year-old daughter. She told them that they raped and beat her so severely she became unconscious and almost died. If it was not for her daughter Iffat and the kind Saudi Bedouins, she would have died and her body would have been buried amongst the moving sands of the Sahara Desert. After living a month in the tent of the kind Bedouins, she traveled with them to the city, homeless and without food. She was beaten mercilessly by a correctional police officer, but she was saved by a kind Indian man. The man told her that he would not allow her to live in his apartment unless she would agree to marry him on paper. He convinced her that If she did not marry him, they would be reported by the Arab neighbors to the police, and they would be condemned as adulterers and get stoned to death. She believed him and agreed to the mock marriage, but they had not had sex together, not even once. She and her small daughter, Iffat, lived with him for a little over a couple of weeks. Finally, her Saudi sponsor, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, somehow found her in a Filipino beauty salon and took her to his house. The Pakistani chauffeur of her sponsor also convinced her to marry him on paper, but she would be kept as a secret wife or a concubine for her Saudi kafil. Neither of these two men with whom she was married on paper had sex with her. She said because of her fear of being pregnant, she agreed to be the kept wife of her Saudi sponsor, but was arrested the next day of her second mock marriage. Therefore, she had also not had sex with her Saudi kafil either. She explained her reason for agreeing to be a secret concubine to her Arab kafil because she missed her monthly period twice, and she understood that she had become pregnant by the baby of one of the two policemen who raped her. The Pakistani chauffeur told her she would not be able to convince the Sharia court that she got raped, and for sure she would be stoned to death. To avoid being killed and leaving her daughter in Saudi Arabia and her family in India without anyone to look after them, he convinced her to marry him on paper and be protected by her Saudi kafil Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed. He had convinced her that her Arab sponsor might either send her to India to deliver the illegitimate baby or bribe a Pakistani doctor and help her get a secret abortion. Rihanna concluded her narration by saying, I've never been a prostitute in all of my life, and I have never slept with any man except my husband who died when I was in India. Rihanna's story convinced the American female human rights activist that she had conceived the baby she gave birth to while in jail by one of the two Saudi police officers who had raped her in the desert on the outskirts of Jeddah city when she and her daughter Iffat arrived newly in Saudi Arabia. Touched the female human rights activist, therefore, she has promised Rihanna Khan that she would write her story and send it to international human rights organizations, foreign feminist groups, and other concerned groups. She also said she would share her tragic case with her friends and relatives on Facebook, Twitter, Messenger, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the internet chat rooms on Paltalk, Clubhouse, and TikTok. Rihanna begged the American female human rights activist who interviewed her in the woman prison to search for her daughter Iffat, and if she found her, to please convince her to come and visit her mother before she is stoned to death. She lamented that she did not know the address of the house where she left her daughter with her Saudi employer when she got arrested and thrown behind bars. She remembered only the name of her sponsor, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, and the name of his Pakistani chauffeur, Sabir Ibrahim Shah. Even so, the American female human rights activist was able to obtain from the woman's prison officials the address and phone number of the condemned Indian maidservant's Saudi sponsor. When Rihanna was arrested, Sheikh Ahmed gave the police his business address. The female human rights activist decided to go to his office and ask him about the daughter of his Indian maidservant who's in the Jeddah woman's prison awaiting her execution through stoning. Before she visited his business office, she phoned and talked to his secretary and asked for an appointment. His secretary dully informed her that Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed at present is on an overseas business trip to Asmara in Eritrea and he would be back after a week. She then promised to phone her as soon as her boss was back in his office. Chapter 8. The fieldwork of the American female scholar. The female human rights activist who interviewed Rehana Khan in the Jeddah women's prison is called Shama Abdul Bari Ahmed. She was born to a Saudi father and an American mother. Her Arab father studied in America. While he was studying for his MBBS, he fell in love with one of his American female classmates. Shama's parents did not marry but lived as common law partners for a few years. As soon as her father completed his studies in medicine, he left America and returned to his Arab country. He abandoned her mother and their little daughter and told her that he was going to his homeland and then he would come back to marry her. He promised further that he would then come back and take her and their daughter Shama to live with him in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He never did come back or contact his American girlfriend, nor did he inquire about his daughter. Shama was raised by her American grandmother. Shortly after, her mother fell in love with another Arab immigrant from Iraq. Her new Arab boyfriend is an Iraqi Christian man who does not believe in premarital sex. Therefore, the Iraqi boyfriend asked his American girlfriend to marry him, and she agreed. Shama's stepfather escaped from Iraq while the tyrant Saddam Hussein was in power. He came to the United States as a political refugee. After the fall of Saddam's regime and the occupation of Iraq by the American and British troops, her stepfather convinced her mother to go with him to his country. Shama did not go with her mother and stepfather to Iraq. She lived with her grandparents until she finished her bachelor's degree in arts. She completed double majors in international justice and human rights and religious studies. While she was studying religion, Shama took some academic courses on women in Islam. Through these courses, she learned about the misogynistic teaching of the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran. She decided to do her master's degree in religious studies and specialize in the status of women in Islam. She chose for her fieldwork the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for two specific reasons. Firstly, women in Saudi Arabia are treated like female slaves or personal property and imprisoned in their homes as dangerous creatures. The second reason is simply that Shama wanted to find her Saudi father. Although she knew that her American mother had bitter feelings towards her Arab father because he had abandoned them a long time ago, Shama still longed to meet her father. She was an exceedingly small female child when he abandoned them. She only knows him through a few photographs she saw in the family album. Shama had visited the Middle East several times during her studies in America, and she had spent most of her summer vacation with her mother in Iraq. She also traveled to many Arab countries like Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco. She was able to pick up the dialects of those countries and learn to speak the classical Arabic language quite well. That is the basic language in which the Quran was written in the 7th century AD. As part of her curriculum, Shama began to take courses in the Arabic language. In that way, she learned the Arabic language and she can communicate well with Arab women. After completing her master's degree by studying several courses on religious studies, she decided to travel to Saudi Arabia and spend 6 months there and complete her fieldwork so she can prepare herself for writing her dissertation for obtaining her PhD in the status of woman in Islam. Therefore, the smart American girl decided to hit two birds by using one single stone. The same academic data she would collect in her fieldwork about the social conditions of women in Saudi Arabia, she is going to use in the future to write her second master's thesis and later for writing her dissertation for obtaining her PhD on the conditions that govern Muslim women in their pure Islamic society. She knows Muslim women who live in Western societies are not subject to many of those misogynistic laws, rules, and regulations. She is quite aware that her research in such a strict Islamic country as Saudi Arabia involves high risk, but she is determined to face the challenge. When the American female scholar Shama Abdel Bari Ahmed applied for a visa to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, her application was rejected because she was a single young woman, and unmarried. She was so disappointed when she learned the reason for the rejection of her visa. She was told the Sharia law in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia does not permit the woman to travel anywhere or step out of her house without her husband or a related male chaperone, such as her father or a brother. Shama then convinced her American boyfriend to travel with her to Saudi Arabia. When they applied for their visas, the application were also rejected because they were living as common law partners and conjugal partners, but not legally married as husband and wife. They were told that they should marry and show their marriage certificate. Once again, Shama convinced her American boyfriend to marry her. After that condition was met, the American female scholar and her American husband received their visiting visas and flew to Jeddah city and stayed in a small hotel located in downtown Jeddah. But Shama hid her field of academic research and claimed to be an American human rights activist. She wanted it to go to Mecca city and Medina city, but because she is a Roman Catholic Christian, she was told by the Saudi embassy she could not go to any of the Islamic holy cities. Only a Muslim man and a Muslim woman can visit those holy cities and towns. But if the American Christian married couple defied that restriction and caught, they would be beheaded and their blood would be upon their shoulders. During her academic fieldwork research, the American female scholar faced so many difficulties while she was trying to study the status of women in Saudi Arabia. Most of the Saudi women whom she tried to interview downright refused to talk to her. The husband of some of the women threatened to call the Saudi correctional police officer on her and get her arrested and severely flogged. Some husbands and fathers of those burqa-clad women tried to harm her. Nevertheless, she was able to interview some maidservants and other foreign female employees who came from countries like Egypt, Lebanon, Somalia, Sudan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Ethiopia, Kenya, and India. After spending 3 months without gaining sufficient information and data, Shama discovered that the Jeddah women's prison was allowing foreign journalists and reporters to interview female inmates. Therefore, she decided to go to jail and look for some Saudi woman to interview them. After she reached the woman's prison, she was told that she could talk only with the condemned female prisoners. She had been strictly forbidden to talk or to meet She had been strictly forbidden to meet or talk with a female suspect who was in remand. This made no sense to her whatsoever, and when she asked about the reason for such denial, she was told that she might change the course of the trial by supplying information to the female suspects who are in remand. In due course, Shama met a few Saudi women and interviewed them. Some of those women are on death row, waiting to be stoned to death for marital infidelities or face it beheading for crimes of first degree murder. Some imprisoned unmarried women are waiting to be flogged with 100 lashes or more for committing various forms of fornication, including watching porn movies, lesbianism, sodomy, and carnal adultery. Most prostitutes in Saudi Arabia would refuse vaginal sex but would agree to anal sex and pornographic sex through their mouths or hands for masturbating the phalluses of their customers. They know real sex would make them pregnant and expose them to stoning. This is because no store in that country sells condoms. In a country where bestiality is common practice, those sexually frustrated men can fuck goats and sheep, and in some cases even hens and cows. Sometimes camels would be involved in such an evil practice. Still others are indicted women awaiting amputation of their hands for theft and burglary. Some of the convicted women admitted their crimes, whereas others claimed to be innocent. Some women said they had been raped and impregnated by their rapist, but they could not prove the identity of their rapist. One young Saudi woman said that she had been impregnated by her brother's friend, who raped her in his house when she went with him to visit her friend's sister. She said her brother became completely drunk by locally made liquor and could not move a limb when his friend took advantage of the situation and raped her in the women's section. Although she witnessed the rape crime, the friend's sister denied any knowledge when interrogated by the police. Another Saudi girl said that she was raped by her uncle in her house when no one was there. Shama knew that she could do nothing to stop those women from being cruelly punished by the Sharia court. She came to know also that Saudi Arabia would not allow DNA testing to verify or disprove any of those women's rape claims. On her rounds, the American female human rights activist came across the indicted Indian female prisoner Rehana Khan and her so-called Wad al-Haram, or illegitimate baby boy. Shama Abdul Bari has discovered that Rehana's crime is somehow unique. It is the first time she has come across a woman being jailed for marrying two husbands at the same time. She knows that Islam allows polygamy but strongly forbids polyandry. When Rehana was in tears and narrated her tragic story, Shama was extraordinarily touched by her situation. She has become convinced that Rihanna is an innocent young woman. Despite such conviction, the female human rights activist understood that she could do nothing to save her from execution. Nonetheless, she promised that she would find out what her Saudi sponsor had done with her little daughter Ifat. She said further that if her little girl is still with her Arab sponsor, she would try to convince him to allow her to come and see her mother before she is put to death. When she returned to the hotel, Shama shared the sad story of Rihanna with her American husband. Her husband also puzzled by the nature of the charges. How could a Muslim woman in such a strict society think of marrying two men in less than 3 weeks? Therefore, both Shama and her husband have doubted the charges. They believe that Rehana Khan was somehow cheated and manipulated by those two men who claim she had married them together without their knowledge. Unfortunately, the American couple knew and understood that they could do nothing to help that innocent Indian woman except, if possible, help her to see her small daughter before her soon coming cruel execution through stoning. Chapter 9. Meeting the pedophile and notorious womanizer. In her mind, the American human rights activist Shama Abdelbari Ahmed reasoned out that the only thing she could do to help the condemned Indian maidservant Rehana Khan is to fulfill her last wish of seeing her small daughter Iffat Khan before she is stoned to death. So she phoned Sheikh Ahmed's office and was told that she would be contacted upon his return from Asmara after 1 week. Shama waited for 2 weeks but did not receive any phone call from Sheikh Ahmed's office. She thought that the secretary forgot to inform her boss or her request for an appointment. And instead of telephoning his office again, she decided to visit the office in person to inquire about the daughter of his condemned Indian maidservant. She expected that if the sponsor is still away, she would be able to get information about the daughter from the secretary, or they could provide her with a phone number or the address of his residence. Shama is also interested in meeting Sheikh Ahmed's first wife and interviewing her. Rihanna had already told her how she was ill-treated by the wife number 4 of her Saudi kafil. The American girl Shama, like any other woman in Saudi Arabia, is not permitted to walk out of her hotel without her husband or a male muhram accompanying her. Like them, she is also not allowed to walk on the street with her face uncovered. When Shama and her American husband arrived at the office, she found Sheikh Ahmed had returned from Eritrea, and at present he is in his office. As soon as his female secretary told him that a young white woman has come to see him, the evil pedophile and notorious womanizer immediately began to think of sex, and his old penis stood like an ugly fungus inside his julbab. He's sharing the erroneous Arab belief that the white women are free-spirited and anyone could take them to bed. He told his secretary to send the white woman by herself to him and to tell her American husband to wait outside for her. As soon as the American young woman walked inside his office, the evil sex predator stood up and offered his right hand to her. Then, in a very friendly and polite manner, he pulled up an armchair and offered her to sit down. My name is Shama Abdelbari Ahmed. I am an American woman, but my father is a Saudi man. I'm glad to meet you, Shama, and whatever helps you need, I am under your service, Thank you so much, sir. I've come to inquire about the daughter of your imprisoned Indian maid servant Rehana Khan. Shama, like most Westerners, tended to look people in the eye when talking to them, understanding the cultural differences. She loves to see the effects of her words on the eyes and face of the person she is talking to. As soon as she mentioned the daughter of your imprisoned Indian maid servant Rehana Khan, she saw Sheikh Ahmed's eyes have reacted as if someone had just sprayed them with burning acid or a chili powder, and his face appeared red and irritated. His smile disappeared instantly, and in its place, an angry mood surfaced. She could see that her words had extremely disturbed him. His friendly manner is replaced by an angry and hostile attitude. Therefore, he raised his voice and shouted it. Who are you, and who has given you permission to come to me and talk to me about my former Indian maid servant's daughter? The mother of Iffat Khan requested me to inquire about her underage daughter. She sent me on this errand and asked me to tell you to allow her daughter Iffat to come and visit her in jail before she is stoned to death. I don't want anything to do with that dirty Indian prostitute. I haven't asked you about your maidservant's crime. As a mother, Rehana Khan had the right to see her child Iffat. Where's her daughter now? I don't have her daughter with me. She said she had left her 7-year-old female child in your house when she was arrested 3 years ago. So your Indian maidservant had left her daughter under your care and custody. I sent her daughter a long time ago to her relatives in India. How could you send a 7-year-old foreign female child to India without the permission of her mother? Who are you to question me on what I did 3 years ago? I've told you that Rehana Khan had permitted me to locate the whereabouts of her small daughter Iffat. At least tell me how the little girl returned to India. No airline would allow a 7-year-old girl to fly without an adult accompanying her. I sent her to Bombay City along with my Pakistani chauffeur, Mr. Sabir Ibrahim Shah. In that case, I would like to meet your Pakistani chauffeur and talk to him. Why do you want to meet him, and what do you want to ask him about? It is already clear to Shama that Sheikh Ahmed is lying to her. Her woman's intuition told her that the old Arab man was hiding the underage girl somewhere and doing something evil to her. Most probably, he's raping her under the guile and pretension of the Islamic halal female child marriage. Therefore, she decided not to leave his office until she got something concrete about the Iffat Khan. Yes, I must meet him and find out about Rehana's little daughter. My former Pakistani car driver left Saudi Arabia and returned to his country 2 years ago. Okay, I will need proof that he took the small Indian girl to Bombay City. Which proof do you want? Are you a policewoman to interrogate me in such a cruel manner? Sir, I am not a policewoman. I'm an American female human rights activist. I'm inquiring about someone's child. As a mother, Rehana Khan has the right to know where her daughter Iffat is now and to meet her before her execution, which is due in a couple of months. Why should I need to give you proof that I had sent the daughter of my Indian maidservant to her relatives in India? Are you a relative of Rehana Khan and her daughter Iffat, or an Indian diplomat woman. If you do not give me some proof, I'm going to go directly to the Jeddah police authority and report you as a kidnapper, rapist, and detainer of an underage female child. In response to Shama's serious threat, Sheikh Ahmad touched the speaker on his phone and called in his secretary. He then told her to pull from the all files copies of the air tickets belonging to Iffat Khan and Sabir Ibrahim Shah and show them to the white woman. He kept those copies on hand because he expected that someday someone might come knocking on his door asking him about the little Indian girl Iffat Khan. Shama followed the secretary and went out with her, but she came back in less than 10 minutes. While she is standing like a policewoman, she said angrily, "The copies of those tickets showed that Iffat and Sabir flew to Asmara via Bombay and Manila. The final destination on the ticket is Eritrea and not India." Yes, the final destination on the tickets is Eritrea, but Iffat's flight ended at Bombay, while my former Pakistani chauffeur continued his trip to Asmara. The Indian consulate in Jeddah rejected the application of my chauffeur for visiting visa to Bombay because he's a Pakistani man, and those accursed Hindus consider every Pakistani Muslim a terrorist and enemy of India. How did the 7-year-old child Iffat travel from the Bombay International Airport to her family's house, and who came to receive her at the airport? My Indian client, Mr. Muhammad Khan, came to the international airport and received her and took her to her family's hut in the slum area. Shama wanted to ask Sheikh Ahmad to give her the phone number of his Indian client, Mr. Muhammad Khan in Bombay, but worried she may be going too far in her inquiry. She understood that even a police inspector might not go too deep in his inquiries, as he had already done with the angry Saudi old man. Instead of running into trouble with Sheikh Ahmad, she decided to go to Rihanna and give her the information she collected about her daughter Iffat. She figured the information about the whereabouts of Iffat Khan might very well be true. She then thanked Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed and left his office. The wicked old man does not believe the smart young white woman has been fully convinced of his false story. He is worried that she might go to the police and somehow implicate him in the disappearance of the Indian maidservant's female child. So he decided to take drastic measures to stop her before she could get him into some serious trouble with the police authority of Jeddah. As soon as the American human rights activist Shama and her husband left his office, he rushed out and entered his vehicle. He asked his new Somali chauffeur to follow the taxi bearing the white couple. Then he ordered his driver to ram his car into the white woman and her American husband the moment they got out of the taxi. He told him he must kill the white woman in particular. The Somali driver at first is reluctant to follow the order of his Saudi kafil, but when Sheikh Ahmad writes him a check for a huge sum of money, gives it to him, and also promises to testify in court on his behalf and swear the accident is not his fault, agreed to hit the white woman. When the taxi reached the hotel, Shama came out first, but her husband remained inside to pay the cab fare. He then paid the taxi driver and got out. While he was emerging from the taxi, he saw a brand new Mercedes car driving at full speed and it hit his wife. Shama's body flew for a few seconds and flung into the air as if it had been blown up by a bomb and landed on the concrete asphalt street. The loud impact of the car and human flesh is impossible to ignore, and every person walking along the street has stopped and looked. Shama's husband could not believe his eyes. When he saw that, when he saw what had befallen his beloved wife, it was clear to him that the Mercedes car targeted his wife and hit her intendingly to kill her. He quickly, with trembling hands, took his pen and notebook and jotted down the number of the Mercedes and then ran to the fallen body of his American wife, who is a few meters away from the violating car. He has seen blood everywhere. She is lying on her back, motionless, and the burqa comes out of her head, and her face and the hair become visible. Her husband began to scream and call for help. He took out of his pocket his cell phone and dialed 911. When he did not hear any dial tune, he remembered that he was not in his country. He tried to talk to the crowd in English, but no one understood his language. He called for a taxi, but no driver was prepared to stop and take the body of his wife in his car. Everyone is scared to come near the body of the white woman. After a long wait, a police car came, followed by an ambulance. Unfortunately, the American brave and loving female human rights activist Shama died before her body ever reached the hospital. The late American female victim Shama Abdelbari Ahmed is the biological granddaughter of Sheikh Faiz Bani Ahmed. Her father, Dr. Abdelbari, is the son of the late first wife of Sheikh Ahmed, Khadija. He studied medicine in the USA. At present, he is working as a medical doctor at King Fahd Royal Hospital, Riyadh City. But neither the evil old geezer, nor the victim Shama, nor her father knew about this blood relationship, and most likely none is going to find out about the relationship. The Saudi father of the late American female victim Shama has already married 2 Saudi wives and has sons and daughters with them, and is now looking for a female child bride to marry as wife number 3 to rape and abuse her, as his father did to the little child of his maidservant Rehana. He had completely forgotten about the American woman with whom he had fathered a female child during his study of medicine in the land of the infidels. If today someone asked him about the names of his American girlfriend and their daughter, he would not be able to tell. And with the cruel murder of his biological American daughter Shama, that chapter is closed in his life forever. If he would come to know later that his father has killed his American daughter from adultery, he would brace his daddy for getting rid of his Bint al-Haram, or a illegitimate daughter, and he might make a statue of liberty for him and erect it in the biggest street in Jeddah. The late Shama made a mistake by coming to do academic fieldwork on Muslim women in a jungle full of deviants. Moreover, she made another grievous blunder by coming to search in a sea teeming with deadly sharks for her biological father, who abandoned her when she was a baby girl. For her Saudi father, she is like a walking, talking sex scandal of an adulterous relationship with his former American girlfriend, who had never become his lawful wife. In Islam, such an illegitimate daughter like the late Shama is not counted as a daughter at all. The Islamic Sharia permits the father to sleep with his daughter who was born to him out of adultery. He is even allowed to marry her and have children with her, because adultery would not establish a blood relationship. This license is mentioned in the Holy Quran. The renowned Muslim commentator Al-Qurtubi, commenting in Surah Al-Furqan 25 verse 54, he said that the Muslim man could marry and have sex with his daughter born out of adultery because adultery would not establish a blood relationship. Chapter 10. The son of the U.S. Senator. The late Sham's husband is called Joshua Alexander Thomas. His father is a senator in the U.S. Congress. Joshua was against the idea of his girlfriend Shama traveling to Saudi Arabia and doing her fieldwork in such a backward society and among barbaric men who look at and treat women like meat. It is his unwavering love for Shama that made him compromise and agree to travel with her. At first, Shama wanted to travel all alone and do her fieldwork on women in Islam and to serve for her Saudi biological father. When the Saudi embassy rejected her visa because she had no husband or any close male relative to travel with her, her boyfriend Joshua felt inwardly relieved because she now wanted him to come along with her. He knew that his girlfriend would need a man to protect her from those sexually perverted men who could see nothing in the woman except a sexy body or a pussy created by Allah for man's sexual pleasure. After they arrived in Saudi Arabia, Joshua felt as if they landed in an open prison for females. Everything is different, and living in the kingdom of Tartarus, Saudi Arabia, so is understandably boring for Shama and Joshua. They have no entertainment venues. There are no movie theaters, nightclubs, or bars. Whatever liquor they brought with them was seized by Jeddah International Airport Police Authority. Ever since their arrival, they could not find a place to buy even a can of beer. Whenever they went to have their food, they found the restaurant inevitably divided into two sections, the man's section and the woman's quarters, as if it were a public washroom. The local women looked like scary moving black ghosts in their huge black abayas and niqabs. Women are not allowed to speak in public because the woman's voice is aura, which makes Joshua and Shama distinctly uneasy. They are afraid that underneath one of those black burqas, there might be a male terrorist who might attack them simply because they are white foreigners. Being Americans made them more vulnerable to the terrorists at kidnap. Anyone would forgive Joshua for counting the days for his wife to finish her fieldwork and return to their free and civilized society. Joshua has an LLB degree and specializes in international law. The cruel murder of his beloved American wife has just turned his life upside down. He has no one to stand with him. He wept bitterly when the hospital declared his wife dead. After overcoming the impact of her death, he made 2 phone calls. First, he called Shama's mother in Baghdad and broke the sad news to her. After that, he phoned his father in Washington and informed him about the murder of his American wife and the reason behind her assassination. On that fateful day, while they were returning from the office of Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed, Shama informed Joshua what had happened between her and the Saudi sponsor of the imprisoned Indian maidservant who had sent her to inquire about her 7-year-old daughter Iffat. She even used her cell phone and secretly recorded every word they had spoken to each other. After hearing the unpleasant dialogue between his wife and the old Saudi man, which Shama translated to him, Joshua concluded that Sheikh Ahmed is hiding the little girl somewhere and most probably raping her under the pretense of child marriage, which is allowed in Islam. Accordingly, Joshua convinced his wife to, to take the case of the small Indian girl to the police in Jeddah. Therefore, on her husband's wise advice, Shama was planning to go to Saudi police authority as soon as she met Rehana and tell her what she heard about her daughter from her Saudi sponsor. Being an American woman who was born and brought up in a free society that treats men and women equally, Shama thought she could challenge a Muslim man and expect him to be intimidated by her serious threats and reveal to her or the police where he was hiding the little girl of his former Indian maidservant. Sadly, her Western cultural upbringing working against her in Saudi Arabia and led her to her brutal murder by an Arab old man who would not like to take orders from a woman, even if she is a policewoman. For him, the woman is deficient in intellect and religion, and therefore she is a body without a brain. She is good for nothing except for sexual enjoyment on the bed and producing children. In Islamic society, the woman's testimony is not accepted in court, even if she has seen with her own eyes the murder of her son. She is a zero citizen and a fully concealed big pussy. Whoever gets a chance can rape it without the fear of culpability. No wonder in colloquial Arabic the woman's vagina is called camel, which means an animal that is created for any man to climb on it and feed it. According to Islamic tradition, the woman she camel and the goat female are to be climbed on them, for they are meant for riding on them. This hadith cannot be interpreted as meant to say these three creatures are meant for riding on them, because no one can ride on a woman or a goat female. What is meant here is that those three female creatures were created by God to climb on their bodies by their male counterparts and have sex with them. So in Islam, the love making between man and woman has been emptied of any love and intimacy and has been reduced to mere animalistic sexual behavior, just like that between goats and camels. Joshua's father, Mr. Alexander Thomas, told his son to leave Saudi Arabia as soon as possible and return to the United States of America. The father is worried that the same evil person who murdered his daughter-in-law might come after his son and kill him too. Even so, Joshua refused to listen to his father and decided to stay in Jeddah city until the person who killed his wife was brought to justice. The first report that Joshua heard from the police of Jeddah regarding the car that hit his American wife and killed her was that the driver was a Somali young man by the name of Abdul Qadir Ibrahim. He was arrested under the serious charges of drinking alcohol and driving and causing the death of a foreign woman. The report also showed that the car belonged to a wealthy Saudi business tycoon by the name of Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed. The Somali man is the foreign chauffeur of the businessman. Sheikh Ahmed was in the car when the accident took place. Joshua rejected that false story because he met the Somali man in the office of Sheikh Ahmed and talked to him. It was the Somali man who approached Joshua while he was waiting for his wife in the reception room and conversed with him. He had requested Joshua's help in immigrating to the United States of America. From their brief conversation, Joshua knew that the Somali was not drunk. Accordingly, the American young man, Joshua, went to the police and informed them that the story of drinking and driving was not true. He said it is just a made up story which meant to cover up the crime that Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed committed against his American wife, who wanted to expose his serious crime of kidnap and rape of a minor Indian girl to the law. Then he told them about the case of the imprisoned Indian maidservant and her missing little daughter Iffat. The Saudi police rejected Joshua's claim as a preposterous and told him to leave it to the judge of the Sharia court of Jeddah to decide upon it. Joshua insisted that his statement about the Somali driver should be included in the case. The Saudi police did not agree. When the police denied his statement, Joshua threatened to take the matter to a higher authority. That said, the American boy told the Saudi police that his father is a senator in the Congress of the United States, and he would use the authority of his father and report the assassination of his American wife to the King of Saudi Arabia. By revealing to the Saudi police that his father is a congressman, Joshua had inadvertently exposed his identity and put himself in danger. The Saudi police men placed him under arrest for trying to use the position of his American father to scare them. The arrest of the son of the American senator in Jeddah city leaked to the foreign media men and spread all over the world. At first, the international media concentrated on the arrest of the son of the senator, Mr. Alexander Thomas. He was arrested by the Jeddah police under the charge of trying to use the position of his American father to twist the hand of the Saudi police. The international media is quick to express concern about the safety of a senator's son inside a Saudi prison. It is a well-known fact that the jails in Saudi Arabia are full of dangerous terrorists of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Therefore, the son of Senator Mr. Thomas would not fare well at all in prison. It did not help that Senator Alexander Thomas is one of the American congressmen who voted in favor of the war on terror in Afghanistan and Iraq, and the international media had already revealed such classified information.